We recently implemented Playfab authentication and leaderboards into our Unity game. And I just want to do a quick video on the three kind of blockers that we ran into as we were developing. Number 1 and number 2 kind of work together, but for 1, the issue we ran into is when you're trying to store a lowest score for a user in the leaderboards. So the recommended approach here is just to kind of map the value when you're setting the statistic and then when you're getting it back from positive to a negative. So in our game, when we're setting the stat here, so you can see the user count.setStatistic. We have this method to get the game time, which is just a millisecond float. But then we have this highscoresmanager.convert ms time to Playfab negative, which basically takes in the number and converts it to a negative, and then we put it into the stat that way. So then that's the way we get to like the lowest value as the high score. So for number 2, we ran into this when we were trying to save like timed high scores here. This was an issue when we're trying to save like the millisecond time. It only accepts an int as the leaderboard value. So it doesn't store decimal places. You have to convert it to an int before you go in. So we're going to take like a similar approach to how we did the negative numbers there. To go back to the code here, you can see again we have the same function we'll jump into and see what that's doing. It's converting the milliseconds to just a whole number, and then converting it to the -1 as we mentioned for number 1 there. And then when we bring the time back in and we're displaying it on the leaderboards or for the user, we have this other conversion function which does the opposite, and it converts it back to milliseconds and then takes away the negative as well. So that way we can just display it to the user as like the full correct time they had. For number 3, it's more related to the authentication method, where we're getting an error when we're doing a UWP build and we want to do the login with custom ID API that Playfab has. As you can see here, when you're doing the UWP, the character count is too long when you're putting in the custom ID, so that fails out that way. A fix that we did was to add an additional hash method to lower the character count. So with this get device ID, you can see that we're checking the length first, and then if that's under 100, we set the custom ID to the identifier directly. But if it's greater than 100, have a helper method down here that converts the device ID into a 64 character hash just to avoid that 100 length error. That kind of helped us work around at least the UWP length issue.